Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we are here to talk about Manchester United and possible transfers they can make this summer, pretty much centered around Paul Pogba and whether he'll leave or whether he'll stay, and pretty much just the midfield situation that Manchester United have at the moment. I'm not talking about what they need up front, and I'm not talking about defence in this video because otherwise it would be very long, because there's enough moving and possible changes that could happen in the midfield alone. We'll get into that here today. Now obviously any moves that Manchester United are going to make this summer are pretty much based around Paul Pogba and if he'll stay or if he'll go, because that's been the main talking point all season, and that'll be where a huge chunk of money will come from if he does decide to move on. Where he'll go, I don't know, possibly Madrid, possibly back to Juventus, but that doesn't really matter. It's basically up to whether he actually wants to stay or he wants to go at the moment. Of course, as well, the fact that he's been injured all season hasn't helped his cause, because we haven't actually seen him on the field and how he's playing, if he looks like he wants to stay or anything. So he's just been on the sidelines where the media is basically all we have to go by, and they're just chatting shit all season. And his agent doesn't help either, because he says a different thing every other minute, and how are you ever supposed to know what to believe? And so as far as Manchester United's midfield goes, without Pogba, the current situation that they have there is Nemanja Matic he's been better recently, but I don't think he's good enough. I don't know, he has been better recently and he has looked good starting in the midfield, but I don't know if he's good enough to stay there long term. I feel like he's just a fill-in kind of piece and not something that you build around. Fred has again been getting better recently. The whole squad as a whole has been getting better recently. But Fred, after his first season with United, didn't look great. Start of the season this year, he didn't look great, but recently he has been starting to look better. He is a young guy, so which is a lot of what Man U is at the moment. Maybe he deserves a chance, but again, I'm not sure he's a starting guy to build around at the moment. Now McTominay is definitely a starting guy to build around, and he's a young guy. He looks like he's maturing in the midfield. He's just back from injury as well, before the season had to be stopped. But yeah, he's definitely a piece that you could work around, and seeing him and Pogba and obviously Fernandes as well, all on the field together would be something I'd love to see before the end of the season, hopefully before Pogba has to make his decision. And then obviously Bruno Fernandes, as I mentioned, everyone has seen what he's done so far. He's been great for the team, and I think seeing Pogba and Fernandes on the field together is definitely something everyone as a Man U fan needs to see before the end of the season. And then if Pogba were to stay, I mean, we have McTominay, Pogba and Bruno Fernandes, then all we really need is maybe to bring in some youth guys to put around them and to build for the future a bit more. We do have that already a bit in Fred. As I said, he's a young guy who's starting to look a bit better. But then there's also, we could bring in some guys to play around Pogba and to learn from, say, what McTominay, Pogba and Bruno Fernandes would be doing out there on the field. And the first guy I would like to see United bring in over the summer would mainly be a guy you'd bring in if Pogba was to stay. I'm not sure otherwise. But then I haven't actually seen anything from him. It's Jude Bellingham from Birmingham, who's a 16-year-old who regularly now starts for Birmingham. So obviously that in itself is a pretty good track record. But I haven't actually seen him play myself, although there is a lot of hype around him and he is only 16, so obviously that is hype that he's earned for a reason. He is also linked with Borussia Dortmund though, who do have a good track record for young players, bringing them in and then developing them. But United do seem to be confident that they can actually still get Jude Bellingham despite the Dortmund interest, so we'll see how that plays out. There's also a thing that they have, that Jude Bellingham has, but apparently his family is concerned about him joining a club like Man U, just because maybe he wouldn't get the same playing time that he gets with Birmingham. And obviously him being only 16 years old, his family are going to play a huge part in the transfer and what team he actually ends up with. Another player then I have on my list of possible midfielders that we could bring in is N'Golo Kante. Now obviously a lot of people know who this guy is. He's been like the workhorse for Chelsea's midfield for the past few seasons. He's 29 years old, so he's not really a young guy that you're bringing in around Pogba. Maybe he could replace Pogba, but then he's not really the same kind of creative midfielder as Pogba would be. He's pretty much known for his engine and his work ethic in the midfield, which obviously would help because we don't necessarily have that at the moment. And Chelsea are kind of going through a rebuild phase at the moment where they have loads of young guys. So maybe Kante will be moved on from there. Maybe I could be completely wrong, but I'd like to see him brought into United to help in the midfield. And the next two guys I have on the list, I have kind of grouped in together because they're both very similar players. They're both very good midfielders already at the moment. They're both young, and they both, I would say, play a key part with their current club, so they're going to be expensive to try and lift out of that club, but they do definitely have a market and could move on this summer. It's Ruben Neves for Wolves and Youri Tielemans for Leicester City. Now they are 23 years old and 22 years old respectively, and they would both make an immediate impact in the midfield and probably be looking for long-term deals because they are young. So those are guys we could definitely bring in. Say if Pogba was to leave, we could bring in at least one of those guys to build the midfield around, and have one of them with McTominay and Bruno Fernandes. Now Ruben Neves has the experience of Champions League when he captained Porto at the age of 18, so he has that experience from a young age. That's obviously a good thing to be bringing into the midfield. And then Tielemans, United have already been linked with them last summer, so they've already shown interest. Maybe they'll pursue it again, but this all obviously heavily depends on Pogba's situation. We really need like a final answer on whether he'll stay or whether he'll go, because it's been a thing all season and it's getting a bit boring at this stage. And in terms of Tielemans, I know I said United did approach to buy him last summer, but going by the track record of buying people from Leicester, we already got Harry Maguire there, and we all saw how much that costed. I mean, it was 80 million for a centre back. Not saying he wasn't worth it, but like that's extremely expensive, so I can only imagine how much money they'd want for Tielemans. And as I said, both him and Neves are key players to their current club, so money's just going up and up. But then again, there's been a lot of talks of how the market's not going to be the same now, and there's going to be a lot of swap deals since all the leagues in the world have been stopped because of this pandemic that's going around. But that all remains to be seen, I suppose. I mean, we could also possibly have if swap deals were to become a bigger thing, maybe Juventus for Dybala, because we were so heavily linked with him before. But that's just a very random thing that I've whipped out there, because if swap deals are going to become a thing, then maybe that would be the way we'd go. And then obviously Real Madrid have a lot of players that could possibly be mentioned in a swap deal as well. But those four guys, Bellingham, Kante, Neves and Tielemans, were my top four probably for the midfield. Obviously Bellingham isn't a buy now and start now guy because he's 16. I mean, maybe he is, maybe I'm wrong, because as I said, I haven't actually seen him play, and he does get regular starting time for Birmingham, but obviously regular starting time for Birmingham and regular starting time for Man U are completely different things, and for a 16-year-old, maybe it's a bit too much to be starting in the midfield for Man United. Anyway, if there's any guys you think I've missed in this video, or if there's anyone you want to see Man U bring in this summer, please let me know in the comments below. Do you think Pogba will stay or go? Because obviously that's like the biggest thing that's going to happen with Man U this summer is his decision, because then that will lead into all other transfer possibilities for the team. Anyway, that's going to be me done. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.